The morning sunlight slipped quietly through the blinds, touching the old photographs that lined my living room wall. I sat at the edge of my couch, my hands trembling as I dialed my daughter's number for the third time. "Please pick up, Emily," I whispered to myself, but the line went to voicemail again. The same recorded voice, so distant, so mechanical. "Hi. You've reached Emily. Leave a message." My heart ached at how unfamiliar even her voice had begun to sound. I took a deep breath and left a message anyway. "Sweetheart, it's Mom. I just wanted to hear your voice today. I baked those cookies you used to love." My voice trailed off as I realized how foolish that sounded. She hadn't visited in months. She barely called. Still, I waited just like every other day, staring at the phone as if love could make it ring. That's when it buzzed. But it wasn't Emily. It was a text, short, cold. "Mom, I'm busy. I'll call when I can." I froze, staring at those words. My throat tightened. Busy? The word echoed through my mind. Busy for what? For the mother who held her through fevers? For the woman who worked 2 jobs so she could graduate without debt? Tears welled up in my eyes, but I swallowed them down. Dignity had become my armor these days. I texted back a simple heart emoji, pretending I understood. Pretending I didn't feel like an old, forgotten memory in her fast-moving life. I got up slowly and walked to the kitchen. My knees hurt now more than they used to. As I poured myself a cup of tea, I noticed the empty second mug I always placed next to mine, her mug. I'd stopped washing it weeks ago. It just sat there, gathering dust, like my hope. Suddenly, a knock came at the door. For a second, my heart leapt. Maybe she'd surprised me. Maybe she'd remembered. But when I opened the door, it was my neighbor Ruth. "Good morning, Helen," she said softly, her eyes filled with gentle concern. "You look tired. Have you heard from Emily?" I smiled weakly. "She's busy, Ruth." "Always busy." Ruth sighed and touched my hand. "You raised her well, Helen. She come around?" I nodded, but inside I wasn't so sure. Nights were getting longer, and silence had become my only companion. Later that evening, I sat by the window, knitting quietly, when I saw something that made my heart stop. Across the street, Emily's car pulled into the driveway. My heart raced. She was here. I stood up too quickly, almost tripping over my shawl. I opened the door, ready to hug her, but she didn't even look at me. She walked straight into her own house, laughing on the phone. "Yeah, I just got here," I heard her say. "Mom, no, I haven't had time to visit." She understand. I wanted to call out her name, but my voice wouldn't come. Instead, I stood there in the doorway, feeling the evening air sting my eyes. She didn't look up, not even once. "Have you ever felt invisible to the one you love most?" "Top heart symbol, so I know I'm not the only one," I whispered, looking into the quiet night. The next morning, I tried to forget it all. I went for a walk through the park, smiling at the sound of children laughing, their small hands tugging at their mothers. A memory hit me. Emily at 5, asking me to push her on the swing, higher and higher, until she laughed so hard she couldn't breathe. "Don't ever let me go, Mama," she'd said. And I never did. Not then. Not now. Even when she'd already let go long ago. That evening, as I sat alone at the table, a sharp pain hit my chest. It was brief but deep enough to make me drop the spoon. I gasped, gripping the edge of the table until it passed. When I finally caught my breath, I reached for my phone again. No new messages. Not even a missed call. I placed the phone down and whispered, "Sometimes silence hurts more than words." Comment true if you've ever felt that pain. Then I noticed something strange, a letter sticking halfway out from under the front door. My heart skipped. No one had written to me in years. I picked it up with shaking hands. It wasn't from Emily. It was from the hospital. The words made my head spin. "Emergency contact, Helen Johnson. Patient, Emily Carter." My cup fell from my hand, shattering across the floor. I read it again, my breath catching. My daughter was in the hospital, and they were calling me the mother she was too busy for. But why? Why now? My hands trembled as I clutched the letter to my chest. A dozen questions filling my mind, none with answers. And in that silent kitchen, with broken glass around my feet, I whispered to myself, what could have possibly happened to her? The sound of my heartbeat was the only reply. I sat on the edge of my bed that night, The letter from the hospital clutched tightly in my hands. My heart thudded in my chest as memories of Emily began flooding back, one after another like a movie I didn't want to watch but couldn't turn away from. I remembered the first time I held her, so small and fragile, her fingers curling around mine. She was my miracle, my purpose. The reason I kept moving after losing my husband in that terrible accident. Life had never been kind to me, but Emily had been my reason to smile through the pain. I raised her alone, working double shifts at the diner, sewing clothes at night to afford her school books. When she got accepted to college, I cried for hours, not from sadness, but pride. Back then, she used to say, "Mom, when I grow up, you'll never have to work another day. I'll take care of you." I believed her. I built my entire world around those words. But life has a way of testing promises. Things started to change after she married Ryan. He was polite at first, too polite, almost rehearsed. "You did a wonderful job raising her, Mrs. Johnson," he said at our first dinner together. But there was something in his eyes, something cold. I brushed it off. I wanted to believe he loved her. For a while, everything seemed fine. They bought a house nearby, visited me every Sunday. Emily would bring homemade pies, and we'd talk for hours, laughing over old memories. Then one day, she stopped showing up. No calls, no visits, just silence. I didn't understand what had gone wrong. When I finally called, Ryan answered. His voice was calm, too calm. "Emily's busy, Helen. She's got a lot on her plate right now." Busy. That word again. The next time I saw her, months later, she was distant, her eyes tired, her smile forced. "You should move in with us," I told her softly. "You'd have more help here than alone in that big house." She shook her head quickly. "Ryan doesn't think it's a good idea, Mom. He says we both need our space." There was something else she wanted to say that night, but she didn't. I could see it in the way she avoided my gaze. "Are you happy, sweetheart?" I asked. Her silence was my answer. Sometimes the ones we love most are the ones who break us. Comment true if you understand that pain. I began noticing small things after that. My calls went unanswered more often. When she did pick up, she always sounded nervous, as if someone was listening. Ruth, my neighbor, noticed too. "Helen," she said one afternoon while we tended to my roses, "Emily doesn't come around much anymore. Is everything all right?" I smiled weakly. "She's busy." "Ruth, you've been saying that for months." Ruth looked at me sadly. "Don't make excuses for people who stopped showing up." I didn't respond. How could I explain that I wasn't angry, just empty? One afternoon, I decided to visit Emily without calling first. I made her favorite casserole and took the bus across town. When I reached her house, I hesitated before knocking. I could hear voices inside, her voice and his, but their words froze me in place. "Ryan, she's my mother," Emily said, her voice breaking. "We can't just ignore her. She's emotional," Ryan replied coldly. "If she moves in, she make everything complicated. You know how she gets. She's lonely," Emily whispered. "She just wants to feel needed," Ryan sighed. "Then buy her something. Send flowers. Don't drag her into our lives." I stood there, my heart shattering. I turned away before she could open the door. That night, I sat on my porch and cried quietly into my hands. No mother deserves to be forgotten. Share this if you still believe love is stronger than greed. Months passed. Winter arrived. I stopped calling as often, trying to protect what little pride I had left. But then came that letter, the one that shattered the silence. "Emergency contact, Helen Johnson." Those words had weight. Something wasn't right. I rushed to find my coat, grabbed my purse, and sat back down when the room started spinning. 1,000 thoughts filled my head. Was she hurt? Was she sick? Why hadn't anyone called sooner? I looked at the photograph on the mantel. Emily as a child, missing a front tooth, grinning wide. I touched her face gently, tears spilling over. "What have you gotten yourself into, my girl?" I called the hospital, my hands trembling. The nurse's voice was calm but urgent. "Mrs. Johnson, your daughter was admitted this morning. She's stable for now, but we need you to come in." "Why me?" I asked weakly. "She has a husband." There was a pause. "We tried contacting him. He didn't answer." Something inside me broke then. The very man who'd pulled her away from me, gone when she needed him most. I pressed the phone to my chest, whispering, If you've ever given everything to your family and still felt invisible, tap heart symbol so I know you exist. I sat in silence for a moment, then slowly stood. My reflection in the hallway mirror caught my older, yes, but still strong. I straightened my scarf, took one last look at Emily's photo, and whispered, "Hold on, sweetheart, I'm coming." But as I reached for my car keys, I noticed an envelope on the counter that hadn't been there before. My heart raced as I picked it up. The handwriting, it was hers. Inside was a short note. "Mom, if you're reading this, something went wrong. Please don't tell Ryan." The words sent a chill through me. What had he done? And why was she afraid of her own husband? I looked toward the window, where the night wind rattled the glass. My hand shook as I clutched the letter. "Oh, Emily," I whispered, my voice trembling. "What secret have you been hiding from me?" The hospital waiting room smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. I sat there, my hands clasped together. The envelope from Emily still tucked safely in my purse. My heart pounded with every tick of the clock. When the doctor finally called my name, his eyes softened as he looked at me. "Mrs. Johnson, your daughter is stable for now, but she's in critical need of a blood transfusion. You're the only compatible match we've found." I froze. My throat tightened. "Me?" He nodded gently. "Yes, she specifically listed you as her emergency contact." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. After all those months of silence, of feeling forgotten, now she needed me to save her life. I followed the doctor down the long hallway, the sound of my shoes echoing against the cold tiles. When I entered her room, my breath caught. She looked fragile, pale, tubes running from her arms, her face barely recognizable. Ryan sat beside her bed, his eyes darting up at me nervously. "Helen, I didn't expect you to come." I looked at him, my voice quiet but firm. "She's my daughter, Ryan. Of course I came." He nodded quickly, avoiding my gaze. "The doctor said you're a match." That's good." I walked closer to the bed, brushing a strand of hair from Emily's forehead. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "I'm here now." Her eyes fluttered open weakly. "Mom," she murmured. "You came." Tears filled my eyes. Of course I did. Nothing could keep me away. She smiled faintly before her expression turned pained. "I'm sorry. For everything. We'll talk later," I said softly. "Save your strength." But as I reached for her hand, I saw Ryan stiffen. Something in his body language made me uneasy. The doctor excused himself, leaving the three of us alone. The room felt heavy, thick with unspoken words. "Helen," Ryan began, "Emily needs rest. Maybe you should wait outside." "No," I interrupted gently but firmly. "She needs her mother right now." His jaw tightened. "I'm her husband. I know what's best for her." I turned to him slowly. "Do you? Because from what I've seen, you know what's best for yourself." His face paled. For the first time, he didn't have an answer. "Emily wrote me a letter," I continued, pulling the crumpled envelope from my purse. "She told me not to tell you." His eyes flickered with panic. "What letter?" "The one that made me realize how much fear she's been living in." I opened it, unfolding the page with trembling hands. "Mom, if you're reading this, something went wrong. Please don't tell Ryan." Emily stirred in bed, her voice weak. "Mom, please, don't." I looked at her gently. "Sweetheart, I can't keep quiet anymore. You deserve to be free." Ryan stepped closer, his voice rising. "This isn't the time," I said softly, my voice trembling but steady. "You've had years to treat her with kindness. All I had was time to sit in silence, while my daughter faded away." The nurse entered just then, holding a clipboard. "Mr. Johnson, could you please step out? We need to prepare for the procedure." He hesitated, then left, his shoulders tense. As soon as he was gone, Emily began to cry softly. "Mom, he didn't want me to see you anymore. He said you were manipulating me, making me feel guilty." I believed him for a while. But then he changed. He started controlling everything: our money, my phone, even my friends. I held her hand tightly. "Sweetheart, you're safe now." "No, Mom," she whispered, shaking her head weakly. "He's been hiding things. That's why I wrote to you. I found something, his insurance papers. He took a policy under my name. If I..." Her voice trailed off, her eyes fluttering shut. Panic surged through me. Emily." The nurse rushed over, adjusting the four. "She's okay. Just exhausted." I stepped back, my hands trembling. The truth was unraveling faster than I could process. I knew now that Ryan wasn't just cold, he was dangerous. Hours later, after the transfusion, I was sitting in the hospital cafeteria when I saw him again. He was talking to a man in a suit. Their voices were low, but I could catch fragments. "She can't tell anyone. Not until it's done. You promised me, Ryan," the man replied. "If this gets out, it won't," Ryan snapped. "She's too weak to talk." I froze. The words sank into my chest like ice. I waited until the man left before walking toward him. "Done with your little meeting?" I asked quietly. He turned sharply. "You shouldn't be here." "I should have been here all along," I said, my eyes narrowing. "You took my daughter from me," filled her head with lies. "And now she's lying in that bed because of you." His face twisted. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I?" I took a step closer. "The police might think differently. Once they see those insurance papers." His confidence faltered. "You wouldn't." I met his eyes. "Try me." At that moment, a nurse appeared behind me. "Mrs. Johnson, your daughter's awake. She wants to see you." I turned away from him without another word. When I entered the room, Emily looked pale but conscious. "Mom," she whispered, "I heard you arguing." "What did he say?" I sat beside her and brushed her cheek gently. "Don't worry about that right now. Just rest. You're safe." She reached weakly for my hand. "Mom, there's something else. I signed some documents he gave me months ago. He said it was for life insurance, but I think it was the house." "Your house?" My chest tightened. "What?" "I didn't know," she cried softly. "He said it was a family trust, something for the future." I swallowed hard. My home, the one I'd built with her father's hands, signed away without my knowledge. The betrayal cut deeper than I imagined possible. "Emily," I whispered, my voice breaking, "why didn't you tell me sooner?" She looked down, ashamed. "I was scared. He said if I told you, he'd leave me." Have you ever spoken the truth and still been blamed? Tap heart symbol if that pain feels familiar. I closed my eyes for a moment, steadying my breath. When I opened them, I saw the doctor entering with a serious expression. "Mrs. Johnson," he said softly, "I need you to come with me." He led me down the hallway into a small office. Ryan was already there, sitting with the hospital administrator. On the desk lay a folder open to a page with my name. "We found something unusual in your daughter's insurance file," the administrator began. "Her signature appears on documents connected to your property. Did you authorize any of this?" I shook my head slowly. "No, I never signed anything." Ryan's face drained of color. "This is ridiculous." "She's confused." "Quiet," I said firmly. The room fell silent. I turned to the administrator. "That man manipulated my daughter. He's been controlling her finances, her choices, even her will." Everyone stared at him. He tried to speak, but his words stumbled. "That's not." I cut him off. "You forged her trust. You used her name to take what wasn't yours." Gasps filled the room. The administrator picked up the phone. "We'll need to verify these documents." Ryan stood abruptly. "You're making a mistake." "The only mistake," I said quietly, "was underestimating a mother's love when family turns against you." The silence hurts more than the words. Comment true. If you've lived this. Emily was moved to a private room that evening. I sat beside her bed, holding her hand, the truth finally out. "Mom," she whispered, her eyes filled with tears. "How did you find the courage to face him?" I smiled weakly. "Because sometimes all you have left is your dignity." And I wasn't about to lose that too. Outside her room, I saw officers arrive. They spoke quietly to the administrator, then walked toward Ryan. He froze when he saw them. For a moment, our eyes met. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Justice was already speaking for me. As they led him away, I turned back to my daughter. She looked up at me, her face pale but peaceful. "Mom," she whispered, "what happens now?" I brushed her hair gently, my eyes glistening. "Now," I said softly, "we heal. And we start telling the truth, even the parts that hurt." But, as I reached into my purse to put away the letter, another folded paper slipped out. I frowned, opening it slowly. It wasn't the letter I remembered. It was a second page in her handwriting. My hands trembled as I read, "Mom, if you find this, there's something you need to know. Ryan wasn't working alone." I looked up, my heart racing. Then who was? The courtroom was cold and quiet. Only the sound of the clock ticking filled the air. Emily sat in a wheelchair beside me, her hand trembling in mine. Across the room sat Ryan, his once confident face pale and hollow. Between us, the truth waited to be spoken. The judge adjusted his glasses and looked toward the lawyer standing beside me. "Mrs. Johnson," he said softly, "you may proceed." I stood slowly, clutching the folder against my chest. My voice was calm, but every word carried the weight of years of silence. "Your Honor, this isn't about money. It's about what was stolen long before any document was signed. Trust." Murmur ran through the room. Ryan shifted uneasily. The lawyer nodded to me to continue. I opened the folder and held up the letter Emily had written. "My daughter sent me this," I said quietly. "In it, she said she was afraid of her husband, afraid to speak the truth. She discovered something she wasn't supposed to find." Ryan's lawyer objected, but the judge raised a hand. "Overruled. Let her continue." I handed the judge a copy of the insurance and property documents. "These are the papers Ryan made her sign. He told her it was for family security, but in reality, he was transferring ownership of my home and assets under his name. He planned everything while pretending to care for her." Ryan leaned forward, his voice shaking. "That's a lie. I loved her. I did everything for her." I looked at him steadily. "Love doesn't come with contracts, Ryan. It comes with honesty." The judge examined the documents carefully. "These signatures were verified by handwriting experts." My lawyer nodded. "Yes, Your Honor, both Mrs. Johnson's and Ms. Emily's signatures were forged. We also have a witness." The door at the back of the courtroom opened. A nurse entered nervously. Ryan's eyes widened. "No." The nurse clasped her hands tightly. "I worked in the hospital's billing department," she said softly. "Mr. Johnson paid me to file fake insurance claims. I thought it was harmless until I realized he was naming his wife as the insured party." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Ryan's lawyer buried his face in his hands. Ryan stood abruptly. "She's lying." The judge's gavel struck once. "Sit down, Mr. Johnson." His voice cracked. "You don't understand. I did it for us, for our future." Emily's voice, weak but clear, broke through the silence. "For our future. You used me, Ryan. You let me believe I was the problem. You isolated me from my mother, my friends, everyone." Her words trembled, but her eyes didn't waver. "You said family was about trust, but you destroyed that the moment you saw me as a paycheck." The room went silent again. Even the judge's pen stopped moving. For a moment, the only sound was the soft hum of the ceiling fan. A woman in the crowd whispered, "How could you do that to your own wife?" Someone else murmured, "Some people only realize too late what real wealth is." I turned toward the judge. "Your Honor, I'm not asking for his punishment. I only ask for my daughter's freedom from his lies, his control, his greed." Ryan sank back in his seat, his hands trembling. The judge looked at him sternly. "Mr. Johnson, the evidence against you is overwhelming. Forgery, fraud, and coercion are serious charges. You will face sentencing accordingly." Ryan's face crumbled. He turned toward Emily. "Please, I can explain." She shook her head slowly, tears falling down her cheeks. "There's nothing left to explain." The gavel struck again. "Court is adjourned." People stood, whispering in disbelief. As Ryan was escorted out, his eyes met mine one last time, filled with regret, fear, and something almost human. I didn't hate him. I only pitied him. For every mother who's been betrayed by her own blood. "Share this." Emily reached for my hand. "Mom, it's finally over," she whispered. I nodded, but my heart felt heavy. "Yes, sweetheart. But endings don't always bring peace." Outside the courtroom, reporters gathered, their cameras flashing. Neighbors, distant relatives, even old friends looked at us with a mixture of awe and shame. I held my head high. Dignity was all I had left, and I wasn't letting go of it now. A woman approached me. "Mrs. Carter, our old neighbor." "Helen," she said softly, "I always knew something wasn't right. You raised that girl with so much love. I'm so sorry for what you went through." I smiled faintly. "We all make mistakes when we love to deeply. You didn't make a mistake," she said gently. "You showed what real strength looks like." They thought she was weak. She showed them what real strength looks like. Emily leaned her head against my shoulder. As we waited for the car, Mom, she whispered, do you think people can change? I looked at her tenderly. Yes, they can. But only when they stop lying to others and to themselves. That night, as we returned home, I walked through the front door of the house that was almost stolen from me. The familiar scent of lavender and old wood wrapped around me like a long-lost friend. I touched the framed photograph of Emily as a child, smiling in her father's arms. He'd be proud of you, I whispered. She smiled faintly through tears. I hope so. But as we sat together in the quiet living room, I could see the pain still lingering behind her eyes. Justice had been served, but the wounds were deeper than any verdict could heal. The clock ticked softly. She turned to me and asked, Mom, after everything he did, do you still believe love is worth it? I looked into her eyes and felt the weight of years, of choices, of forgiveness I wasn't sure I could give. I don't know, sweetheart, I whispered. Justice was done, but peace still feels far away. It's been 2 years since that day in court. The seasons have changed, and so have I. My garden is full again, roses, daisies, and the same lilacs Emily used to pick when she was little. Every morning, I sit on the porch with my cup of tea and watch the sunlight fall on the old oak tree where we used to hang wind chimes. The silence that once hurt now feels peaceful. I'm no longer waiting for calls that never come or messages left unread. I've learned to live for myself, quietly, simply. Emily visits often now. She brings her son, my grandson, Noel. He's 5, full of laughter and questions. Grandma, why do flowers always face the sun? He asked me yesterday. I smiled and told him. Because even flowers know where warmth comes from, in his laughter. I find something I have lost hope. Emily has changed too. Her eyes, once heavy with guilt, now hold gentleness. She helps me bake on Sundays, just like we used to. The house smells of cinnamon and memories. Sometimes she just sits beside me, her hand resting on mine, and says, I'm sorry, Mom. And every time, I answer the same way, we don't need sorry anymore. Emily, we just need love. Forgiveness wasn't easy. Some nights I'd still wake up remembering the lies, the court, the look in Ryan's eyes as he was taken away. But holding on to pain only makes it heavier. One morning, I burned all the old papers, the documents, the letters, the reminders of deceit. I didn't do it out of anger. I did it to let go. The ashes floated into the wind, and I whispered, I'm done carrying what's not mine anymore. If you've ever healed after heartbreak, tap heart symbol so I know I'm not alone. People in town sometimes ask how I'm doing. Better, I say. But what I really mean is free. Free from waiting, from proving my worth, from trying to fix people who chose to break me. I spend my evenings writing letters. I never send letters to my younger self, the one who thought love meant endurance. I tell her that love should never silence your soul. It should lift it. I also tell her that family isn't just who shares your blood, it's who shares your heart. A few months ago, Emily asked if she could move back into the house with Noah for a while. I hesitated. The wounds were still there, just softer now. But when she hugged me that night and said, I just want Noah to grow up knowing what real love feels like, I nodded. That's all I ever wanted to comment strong. If you've ever had to stand alone and rebuild. Now, every evening, Noah helps me water the garden. He calls each flower by name. This one is Hope, he says, pointing to a daisy. And that one's Grandma's smile. We laugh together. And sometimes, in those small moments, I feel time folding in on itself, the past and present holding hands. My home, once heavy with silence, now hums with life again. Emily has started painting. Her canvas hangs in the hallway. It's a portrait of us, sitting under the oak tree, the wind chimes dancing above. Below it, she wrote, asterisk, forgiveness grows where love is watered, asterisk. I touch that painting every morning before I start my day. It reminds me that even broken roots can bloom again. Grandmas deserve respect and love. Share this so everyone remembers that. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned gold, Emily brought out 2 cups of tea. Mom, she said softly, do you ever miss him? I took a slow breath. I miss who I thought he was, but I don't miss the pain he left behind. She nodded quietly. You're stronger than anyone I know. I smiled. No, darling. I just finally stopped fighting what I couldn't change. We sat there for a long time, saying nothing. The air was cool, the garden calm, the past finally at rest. I watched Noah chasing fireflies, his laughter echoing through the twilight, and for the first time in years, my heart felt light. Sometimes, I whispered, half to myself, even after betrayal, love still finds a way. And maybe that's the lesson life had been trying to teach me all along, that peace isn't found in forgetting what hurt you. It's found in forgiving, in letting go, and in choosing to love anyway.